Hello everybody, Andy here, and in this video I posit that you are adrift at sea on a life raft about to unalive yourself of dehydration because all around you is seawater. But actually it's fresh water and you're just too scared to drink it. So I guess I'm kind of convincing you to drink what you think is seawater. I've already lost the metaphor, so I'm gonna... But first we need to define the raft you're on, the seawater and the fresh water, and don't you worry, the water you can drink from will be salt-free, but there will still be plenty of salt. From me, actually, and probably you at what I'm saying. I'm gonna stop the metaphor, but in the comments you tell me what's the raft, what's the salt water, and what's the fresh water, because I've lost it, if I'm honest. So you find yourself devoting money, time and mental energy to a game that due to factors outside of your control is in a meta that is completely effed. And we all know what I mean when I say effed, but I can't swear until after the first minute of a video. Yeah, because much like any Adeptus Mechanicus, I'm a slave to the almighty algorithm. Hey, if you want some of that sweet skitussi, drop a like and a comment and a sub, you little subs you. No, I do not know why I write these things, and yes, I feel very awkward reading them out at the time of reading, which is inevitably several days later after writing it when I thought it was funny. Talking of metas that are more boned than a necromancer on his rise and grind mindset in the millennial gig economy we currently live in, you might be wondering if I'm talking about Kill Team or 40k. And the answer is yes. I want to quickly define a broken meta, because the meta is totally fine for some people. However, a broken meta I'm defining as if you go to a tournament and you are not taking a very specific handful of factions, then you are severely handicapping yourself, and we are, beyond the timeline in a release where initial shock has worn off. So the niches, the crevices, the cracks have been found from the initial release. Let me break down what's screwy in both systems for you very quickly before we move on to what to do after accepting the brokeback mountain of it all. Kill Team is possibly in the most broken state it's ever been thanks to the Chaos Cultists. History and context, you wish? Sure. Pathfinder's OP broken. Cool. Entire meta grew up around stopping shooting teams from being good with terrain placement. Nice. Buff after buff after buff was given to melee teams, via us primarily, and then an OP melee horde team releases. Need I say more? It's a strong team combined with the way players have evolved the parts of the meta that they have control over. It's honestly pretty bad stuff. Not that I'm saying it was the wrong choice, it's just that is the series of events that have occurred. On the 40k side of things, we have Eldar. I could probably just stop the sentence there, but I have written more apparently. So towering and indirect keywords. Also, that was just a sentence on its own, I guess. Combined with just a whole bunch of stuff like heavily undercosted, the core rules, honestly, in my opinion, are pretty solid in 10th. But Games Workshop has just combined a bunch of rules into very problematic combos and then undercosted them because I guess they forgot that rules allow you to ignore terrain, a balancing factor in the game, are probably not good in general. Yeah, it's annoying because they were already given this exact lesson in 9th edition and they changed how the game works to accommodate it, but they have now discarded it. And if I may be cynical for a moment, no, not me, what? They discarded it on a lot of units that weren't very good in the last edition, forcing everyone to buy new models to kind of get set in the new edition, but are inevitably going to nerf them again after 6 to 12 months. One could argue they didn't so much discard the lesson as fully accept it and use it as a sales strategy. Very G-dubs, nice. Also, minor addendum that has to be said, these top teams are not unbeatable, I do want to just throw that out there, and people do regularly beat them, it is possible. But they are factions that allow you to skill jump. I've mentioned this concept in previous videos. You won't be able to beat a better player playing the same team, but you'll be able to beat a better player playing a worse team. It's a skill jump team. This is a problem at every level, both competitive and casual for both systems. Some casuals may deny it, but that's because they haven't run their Compendium 6 stealth suit into Chaos Cults, just because that's the theme the Chaos Cults player enjoys. He's not trying to power game it, that's just what he wants to play. And some competitive players may deny it, but that's because they haven't stomped noob tournaments with the OP team to gain ITC points yet, but right after they've done that, they'll be on board the nerf train. Funny how that works so consistently, isn't it? Now to clarify, the actual answers to all of these problems is to vote with your wallet, Stop buying GW, actually make a stand, stop being such a pushover. But we all know that's not going to happen, so let's complain about it while still paying outrageous amounts for little toys. Why give other miniature companies any of our money? Why look at miniature agnostic games? Why not do what we say? Put our money where our mouth is. Oh, don't worry, friendly viewer. None of this is aimed at you, actually. I'm saying this purely to myself. If some of it connects with you, then maybe you should hate yourself as much as I hate myself, but accept that retail therapy is a valid escape from the horrors of modern life. In fact, I'm writing this script sat in central London in an olden steam, my self-hatred rising with every sip of my unavoidably more expensive coffee, as I wait for a visit to my doctor to tell me just how dire everything is, as they do every year. And it's not free healthcare, just to clarify, it's paid for by my taxes, and then I'm reading it back to you in a shrine dedicated to my own stupidity and failure, honestly the pinnacle of content creation hubris. I might be working out a few things here in this limited form of creative expression I have left to me. Double hello. Right, Warhammer broken metas, what to do? If you attend a tournament in the current meta environment and you are not playing Chaos Cults or what you believe is a direct counter to Chaos Cults, you are essentially saying that you don't care about winning. Which is fine, great even, but this makes every tournament a casual tournament. I mean, apart from the 4 people at the top running the broken stuff, which again, I actually have no real issue with. And kill team tournaments aren't big enough to really go for like best in faction win spots. So for competitive players, what you can take and still be competitive is greatly reduced. And competitive players still enjoy certain factions, right? Competitive doesn't mean they only want to take the absolute top most broken faction. Well, there's a whole other conversation there about kind of whack players, win at all cost players versus competitive players, but that's for another video. There are many top-tier competitive players that refuse to play certain factions, and for these top players, the tournament scene is essentially dead. And tournaments are still going on, let's be clear. They cost more time, money, and mental energy. A broken meta is an unhealthy competitive scene, polarizing the community into the bleeding edge and the casual competitives. It fractures the entire scene both locally and nationally and internationally. Why bother flying to another country to participate in a big tournament when you know there's no chance of you winning because you don't like cults or their current most favoured counter, commandos, for example. Oh my god, I'm going off script, I'm going to ruin the video. For example, I'm currently considering going to Poland in October to do a team tournament. Why bother? I don't want to play cults. I don't really want to play against cults. Why go? The Kilting community is small and people talk about self-policing and soft-banning teams, of course, aka a gentleman's agreement, but that is, to be clear, insane. People want to win the game at a tournament. Why tell them they can't use a certain tool in their bag? And why hurt the new player who only just got into the game and Chaos Cults just so happens to be their first team? 40k is exactly the same, except it has more nutters, frankly, and they seem totally happy to just let Eldari, Knights, Genestealer Cults, whatever, dominate the scene, and accept they have to buy one of those factions. But for my thoughts on that, see the earlier paragraph where I briefly lost my sanity about coffee and Olin scene and stuff. I will say that online I've seen it as a bit of a recurring sentiment from 40k players that people have their friendly army and then their tournament army. Against friends, they'll play like Adeptus Sororitas or Grey Knights, and then at a tournament they're going to be running their Knights or Eldari. Okay, let's have a quick chat about the casuals out there. Obviously I've been focusing heavily on tournaments because it's very easy to say a broken team breaks a tournament. However, what about the casuals? Most people like Warhammer because of the theme, right? Eldar is a very popular faction. Chaos Cults are probably also something people like, I guess. Before 10th edition launched, this is called, what's this bit called? This is called Pure Personal Bias. There you go. Before 10th edition launched, I was thinking of all the cool list building opportunities. All Wraith unit army is legit something I wanted to run. Now imagine I turn up with that to a friendly game. I'd be met with raw salt, and rightly so. Chaos Cults is super cool theme, it's like the archetypal struggle of Chaos versus Imperium. You have normal humans literally on the game table in front of you becoming converted to full-on chaos, acolytes and such. It's very cool. But Chaos Cults are broken, and the Inquisition agents have a super strong theme of stopping you from playing just playing the way you want to win. It's just, they stop you from doing it, which is fine. That's a whole game design decision. If you just like either of those themes, and someone else brings their compendium sisters of battle, you can't help but stomp them, honestly. Like, your team is just better in every possible way. And the skill jump factor is not good. Anyway, I think that's the problem fully explained. I think. Maybe. If not, hopefully you at least get the idea, even if I didn't touch upon the specific verbiage that you like to think of a broken meta. There are issues, that's what I'm saying. So with the metas in oppressive states and no one willing to actually stop playing the games, lol, what should we do? How do we interact with the game during this downtime? And let's just accept that smashing your head against the wall that is the top meta team every time you play to try and get better to be able to beat them isn't actually fun, right? Because for some people that will be fun, and they're totally fine with having every single match they play against Chaos Cults and losing. Good for them. That's top tier. Because Cults and Eldar can be beaten, but it's not really fun, for most. And playing them every game isn't fun when you know it would just be so much easier to give in and play the broken team, but for whatever reason you don't really want to. Right, so you can spread your wings and try new teams. Oh wait, everything is out of stock at Games Workshop, never mind. Lol. But let's just imagine that they're actually in stock and you can buy them. Try a team that takes you back to fundamentals. You know what? The Compendium is still a very fun set of rules, honestly. Theorycraft kind of goes a little bit with what was that previous point there. You love the game, you want to think about it compulsively, as we all do. Well, go back and reread all of the team's rules. You know so much more now than you used to. Maybe you can find some hidden gems, and you know what? For the 40k players, most people just Theorycraft. In fact, the more I actually play 40k, the more I realise that what I actually enjoy about the game is just thinking about it. The enjoyment of actually playing it very much does not survive contact with the table, in my opinion, at least so far. Maybe I need to rethink, but that's for me to deal with. Consider playing Hearthkin or Leagues of Votan, because both suck and they need some representation. Also, if you're a top player, go and show just how well they can be played to give us casuals some hope, please and thank you, because very genuinely, we all know how this works. You know, the top players inevitably are the top players, mostly because they want to win and they put the time and the effort into it. But that also means they are fully aware of how the scene works and the reality behind it, and they are going to be playing the best faction because it gives them a better chance to win. And then you get the whole snowball effect of you are the best faction just mechanically, and then you also have the best players playing that faction. Likewise, the worst factions, which are not great mechanically, but are probably better than they should, or better than they are represented in stats, don't attract good players. Unless you are naturally good and naturally just want to play that team, but you're not going to be getting outside players of the faction lovers playing it. We then have hobby. Now, I guess some people like to do hobby. Maybe you could do that. I don't know. I obviously don't like hobby. I don't really do the social media thing, but what I think might be funny would be like an Instagram account called something like Perspective Wargaming, and it's all just like pictures of models at the distance you'd actually see them at. So still in a light box, just absolutely tiny. I don't know, some realism, you know, like instead of having like Instagram stuff with this like super close, it would be here. This little square here would be the Instagram post. That would be funny, wouldn't it? Finish the damn video, Andy, Jesus. Or finally, and I know I've alluded to this before, but play some other games until it's fixed. Because you know what, Games Workshop will fix all of these rules. I'm honestly pretty sure on that. But if your only interaction with the scene is hardcore competitive gaming, like, there are so many other game systems out there that would love to have your custom. If you're into skirmish, try Shatterpoint, Dead Zone, Infinity, Conquest First Blood, Malifaux, or something miniature agnostic, of course. Or if you like full scale, consider looking at Firefight from Mantic, which is just releasing a new edition right now, or of course like Star Wars Legion. And again, lots of miniature agnostic options there too. All of these games can use 40k models as proxies and have free rules for you to try before deciding if you want to buy in or not. But if you're absolutely married to GW, then you know what, Sigmar is pretty good and can scratch that competitive itch for you. as it does have a decent competitive scene out there. Or if you want low stakes fun in systems that you 100% should not try and break, because the system will be very easy to break, try Warcry or Necromunda. Or for a nice change of pace, Underworlds has some of the best models around and is a decent and fast card game with movement and might actually tickle your competitive itch as well. Oh, and of course Epic is coming out with hidden orders and alternating activations and actually meaningful keywords on your weapons that make the different weapons costing the same actually make sense, unlike 40k. Whew, I'm kind of done, I think. That was a lot. That was a lot, wasn't it? Emotionally. But first, back into that whole surrounded by water, but not a drop to drink metaphor now, if I may. If I may do that briefly. Stay hydrated.